Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this is for UFC 262, Oliveira v Chandler. Overall, this was a great night of fights. A lot of decisions, more on the main card than they were on the prelims, but overall, all the fighters that won were supposed to win. Except for one, maybe, possibly. Overall, I just have one injustice, and we'll just jump into it. Really, the first injustice of the night, but this one's a little different because I don't think this is entirely an injustice as I thought when I first scored it, because I believed that the first two rounds were so close that they were essentially toss-ups. That fight I'm talking about is Chookagian versus Araujo. My scorecard reads, obviously, 29-28. The first two rounds I gave to Araujo, and the last round on basically everyone's scorecard should be Chookagian. Now, the judges read, Chris Lee had it 29-28, Chookagian. Jeff Rexroad, who I believe might be the brother of Rob Rexroad, the ref for tonight. I'm not sure about that. I might have to check that later. But his scorecard was 29-28. Chookagian and Marcos Rosales had it 30-27. Now, let's start from the fact that this is all kind of all over the place, right? Let's just start from the first. The first is very close. I mean, it's very, very, very close. It's even with strikes, even though the unofficial numbers show that Araujo was winning on strikes in that first round. It's very close. It's very, very close. With Araujo pushing the pace. Now, I scored it for her based on the fact that, yes, it was close, but Araujo is pushing the pace. She's the aggressor. Therefore, she wins the round, right? Only two judges saw it that way, while Rosales saw it the other way. Again, this round to me was very close in terms of the striking department. I still think this round belongs to Araujo, but it's very close. I will fault Rosales for this first round, but not as much as the second round. Now, the second round is an interesting one because in the second round, right, Chookagian gets a knockdown. It's a front foot. It's a front foot knockdown, a front kick knockdown, but it's not as important as like a leg kick knockdown or a head kick knockdown, right? Different type of knockdown, but either way, she gets a knockdown of some sort, right? She gets taken down with a little bit of ground and pound, but she finishes the round very well, right? We're in the circumstance where you can kind of see it both ways, right? She starts off the round well, gets taken down, ground and pound for 2+ minutes, and finishes the round well. Now, the reason why I gave it to Araujo is I don't think there was enough time that Chookagian could have came back to secure this round. Now, she finished the round very well. So well, and enough time to where I'm not mad at Chris Lee, Jeff Rexroad, and Rosales for giving her that round. I'm actually not mad about it because she finished so well that I think they just decided, hey, she did enough in that first half and in that latter half to give her this round. I don't agree based off of what Araujo did in that middle bit, but it's very close to where I don't think it's that bad. That's why I'm kind of teetering on, is this an injustice or not? Because that second round is so close. It's not like mega close, but it's close enough to where you can kind of give it to either person. Now, the third round is really not up to dispute. All judges have it 10-9 for Chookagian. The third round is not a problem. In the third round, she basically outstrikes Araujo. So it's not that big of a dilemma. But it's that first round that's kind of tight. But most people would give that to Araujo. The second is very close. It's very close to where, if Araujo held her down maybe a minute more, maybe 30 seconds more, I think the judges might have changed their scorecard. But because she didn't, they see it the other way, and they gave that to Chookagian. Again, most of the times, I'll come on here and I'll probably say, oh, this is an injustice, a big injustice. I think these are one of those flimsy ones where you can really toss this up and make an argument for Chookagian. It's not bad. It really isn't bad. Going into this fight, I was thinking this was going to be a fight that ended in a TKO of some sort, but I was wrong. But either way, regardless of that point, those first two rounds were so close. I'm not really mad at their scorecards. Maybe the first round, because the first round, it's so close that's when you have to start using the secondary items of octagon control and who's pushing the pace and this and that. And, Rosales, I don't think did that. So, again, I think that's an injustice, but I'm not too harped up on it. Other than that, everything else on this card just comes down to honorable mentions, right? And first, we go to the first honorable mention, which is Giagos versus Soriano. My scorecard for obviously that fight ended in a submission, but mine was a 10-9 for Soriano. Patrick Patlin had a 10-9 for Soriano. Robin Williams also had a 10-9 for Soriano. And then I'm just going to say, okay, Alejandro had a 10-9 for Giagos. Now I can get into my mode of being mad at judges who obviously don't know how to score. Now, I know there's that weird thing of Texas judges don't know how to score, and it seems as though this was the night where no one got screwed. Maybe Araujo, maybe, but it goes to show that someone will get fucked. Someone will get screwed by these scorecards, and this is a perfect example. In this first round of Giagos versus Santos, Giagos had two takedowns. Now, granted, they were just two takedowns. They weren't takedowns that produced any ground and pound. They were two quick takedowns that Soriano got up from. Soriano did drop Giagos with a leg kick and outstruck him. So this is obvious that this round belongs to Soriano. Two judges saw it that way, and I know it's not useful to use two judges to make your point, but two judges saw it this way, and one judge just decided, hey, fuck it. I think those two takedowns are important. There's this theme occasionally with certain judges where if the man is chain wrestling, or if the man just has two takedowns but doesn't do anything with them, it's his round. And that's bad scorecard. That's bad scoring. That's bad judging. To just go, hey, this guy's wrestling, therefore it's his round. The honorable mention goes to Alejandro for just lazy judging. That's what I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna stop calling it bad judging. Yes, it's bad, but it's lazy. Next honorable mention is Aguilar versus Lutz. My scorecard had 30-27. Joshua Ferreira also had a 30-27 Lutz. I had a 30-27 Lutz. Alejandro had it 29-28 Lutz, and Rosales had it 29-28 Lutz as well. The honorable mention goes to Alejandro and Rosales for that last round. Now, this last round's very close. It's very close, but it's obvious that Lutz had, while they were both pretty even and both had big shots, Lutz, his output was much more. He was throwing more. He was the more active person, and therefore he won the round. It was very even, but Lutz is much more active than Aguilar in that round, and that round goes to him, in my opinion. I do think this is a 30-27, but what are you going to do? It's just one of those cases. Next honorable mention is for probably the worst scorecard, and I would say in a long time, but last week we had a scorecard that was a 28-28, arguably one of the worst scorecards imaginable. It's one of those scorecards where, because the fight is not really like all over the place, but it's like slowed down a bit, the judge just decides, hey, I don't know what's going on, so I'll just give it to the wrong person. This isn't that case. It's not that case. This is essentially wrestler versus striker, and wrestler is wrestling but is not ground and pounding. It's just one of those things where, because he is wrestling, the judge sees that as winning, when that just wasn't the case here. And that fight that I'm talking about is Vannata versus Grundy. My scorecard reads 30-27. And the judges' scorecards read Chris Lee, who, I would assume Vegas judge. This isn't a Texas judge. Chris Lee had it 29-28. Patrick Patlin, the worst scorecard of the night. The worst scorecard of the night. 30-27 Grundy. And Rosales 30-27. I think Rosales had the best scorecard in this fight, but we'll talk about Chris Lee real quick. In the second round, Vannata outstrikes Grundy. Grundy doesn't even get a takedown in this round. And I mention that because it's the takedown that clouds these judges' minds to where, essentially this is why you have a 30-27 on Patlin, is because he's fawning over these takedowns so much that's what gives this scorecard. Now, the reason why I say there's no takedowns is because it's just striking in the second round, and Vannata outstrikes Grundy. It's obvious that it's his round, yet for some reason Chris Lee gives it to Grundy. There's no change in pace. It's not like Grundy's more active in this round per se. No, it's the same thing as the first, essentially, just Vannata's landing more. That's a bad scorecard from Chris Lee. I don't know what he was watching on that one, but that's a bad second round by Chris Lee. Honorable mention for him. Patlin has to go into the Hall of Fame of worst scorecards. Terrible scorecard. I've explained the second round. The first round, I guess what Patlin is saying is, in that first round, Grundy has 2 takedowns. Now, mind you, two of these takedowns are those type of takedowns where takes you, brings you to the ground, and Vannata gets up almost instantaneously. Therefore, they don't matter. They're irrelevant. Now, they're irrelevant if the rounds are close and they're both striking each other, same amount of strikes roughly, both pushing the pace, and he takes him down. Then the takedowns matter, then you win the round. That's not what that's not what happens. Okay, Grundy takes him down twice. He gets up instantaneously. And Vannata is landing. Strikes, kicks, everything. He's outstriking him in this round. Also, and Patlin just says, no, Grundy wins this round somehow, some way. His scorecard is disgusting. And then I'll just dispute the third round. Vannata outstrikes Grundy again. And in this time, they both get takedowns. So both of them got a takedown. And he's getting outstruck. And Grundy's getting outstruck. This scorecard is so bad, it makes you wonder. You know, a couple weeks ago, again, I referenced, I believe it was the Romanov versus Espino fight, where there was a round scored for Romanov in the first. And that's bad. It's very bad, because Espino took him down so many times in that round. He was winning that round. You know, some of these rounds are so dominant isn't the word. Some of these rounds are so obviously for a different opponent that it makes you wonder, and you never want to accuse a judge of this, but it makes you wonder, are you watching the fight, or do you like the fighter so much, or not even that, or do you like the style so much, right? Because let's just be honest here. It's fair to say that, yeah, certain judges might have certain preferences towards certain disciplines. And that's fair. I think that's true. I think you can see that in a lot of people's scorecards, where certain takedowns matter, but they don't count them, or certain or someone can be getting outpointed, but someone got taken down one time and they got the round. You can see that in some scorecards, but you never see it to where a fighter's obviously losing the whole fight and gets a 10-9 on on the entire scorecard. That's when you start to question things and go, listen, you shouldn't be scoring these if you're going to give a 10-9 on every round for Grundy. That this goes up there as a disgusting scorecard. The next honorable mention goes to for the Burgos versus Barboza fight. This ended in a TKO. For the first round, it was a 10-9 for Barboza for me, and then a 10-9 for Burgos in the second. Now, Chris Lee gives a 10-9 to Barboza for both. No, not at all. The first round is pretty set in stone. The leg kicks are adding up for Barboza. They're adding up, and some heavy shots that stun Burgos. But Burgos he's still getting his shots off. So it's a pretty active round, but it's obvious that Barboza wins this round in the very first round. In the second round is when Burgos turns up the pace. It's still pretty even, but he pushes the pace and he outlands Barboza on the feet. It's obvious in that second round, it's his. Somehow, some way, the judges fell in love with the minimizing leg kicks by Barboza. Now, remember, in the first, he goes crazy with the leg kicks. In the second, they decrease by a lot, and he's getting outstruck. Barboza is, and Chris Lee happens to say, "Hey, he's still winning this." That's terrible by Chris Lee. Saul D'Amato sees it the opposite, with Burgos winning the second, and Jacob Montalvo, who I believe was also the. I'm surprised here. Who's also the ref. Put a 10-9 for Burgos. Look, this is my first time. I know that some judges ref, and some refs judge, but I kind of don't. I'm not a fan of that. I might not be a fan, and I don't know if I'm not a fan because they're not good at it. I might not be a fan because they're not good at it. Jacob Montalvo just decides, hey, it's a 10-9 for Barboza. No, it's just not. It's just not. That's an honorable mention for Chris Lee and Jacob Montalvo. That shouldn't be happening. There's no way that he won that second round. I think, thank goodness that Saul D'Amato was there to at least be one voice of reason for that scorecard. Next honorable mention is Schnell versus Bontorin. My scorecard reads 29-28 Bontorin, with him getting a 10-9 in the first and the third round. Now, Saul D'Amato has a 30-27. Alejandro has 29-28. And Ferrero has it 30-27. The 30-27s, first of all, all three of their scorecards I think are wrong. All three of them. For Saul D'Amato, I think he gets the second wrong. I'm sorry, for all three of them, I think they get the second wrong. In that second round, okay, in the second round, Bontorin has some big shots. They're few, but he has some big shots. Maybe two or so. But Schnell picks up the pace from that first round and is outstriking Bontorin. It's obvious. It's very obvious that Bontorin is getting outstruck in that second round. I believe he loses that second round. But again, because maybe it was just very inactive the entire fight. Not too inactive, but the first two being a little inactive, they lean towards Bontorin. I don't agree with the decision, but I think that might be their reasoning. In that first round, though, that's very much for Bontorin, in my opinion. And one judge saw it the opposite, giving it to Schnell. That would be Alejandro. He gave a 10-9 to Schnell in that first round. Bontorin got a knockdown. One of those leg kick knockdowns. But it was a really low output round. Even though Schnell got off more shots. Again, Bontorin got the knockdown, so it's his round. But Schnell got more shots off. And more shots landed, really. But because Bontorin got the knockdown, it's his round. And it's that weird situation where a judge just decides the opposite way, even though it's just kind of etched into the scoring that, hey, if you get knocked down and the round is inactive, you win the round. So, again, I don't like that scorecard. I think that's another terrible one. So yeah, all three, D'Amato, Alejandro, and Ferrero, an honorable mention for that one. And then the last honorable mention of the entire card is the main event, Oliveira versus Chandler. In that first round, it's obvious who won that first round. It's Chandler, 100%. I had a 10-9 for Chandler. And the other judges decided, hey, let's play hero. Because, again, I think, right now it's just fun. Right now I think they're having fun just scribbling whatever. Because eventually one day this will affect somebody. And I'm pretty sure it already has, really. But I had a 10-9. Chris Lee had a 10-8. Saul D'Amato had a 10-8. And Rosales, who has had terrible scorecards throughout the night, finally decides, you know what, I think sees it correctly. I don't know his rationale. I can't decide. I can't think that up right now. But decides, hey, it's a 10-8 for It's a 10-9 for Chandler. But Saul D'Amato and Chris Lee go 10-8. Where do you see a 10-8? Chris Lee, Saul D'Amato, where do you see a 10-8? Because while Chandler is outstriking Oliveira barely, but because remember, before they get to the ground, he hits him with a few good shots, okay? Then he hits him with a big shot that brings him to the ground. They get the ground and pound. He's got him there for a little bit, and Oliveira also has some ground and pound. So let's not forget that Oliveira starts with him on Chandler's back. There's a portion of that fight where Oliveira is on Chandler's back. Okay, he's searching for subs a little bit. He's grounding him. He's ground and pounding as well. So it's almost like they missed that part. You know, it's different. And even if he didn't hit the ground and pound, remember, Chandler has to be dominant the whole round, in my book, to give the 10-8. But Oliveira is giving ground and pound still until things get reversed, and then Chandler kind of finishes the round in great fashion. But no, this is just another example of, oh my God, there's a lot of action. 10-8. Oh my God, there's a lot of action. 10-8. You can't give 10-8s for Islam Makhachev, which I gave a 10-8 for one of those rounds. You can't give a 10-8 for Vettori versus Holland, which I gave a 10-8 for one of those rounds. And a countless other bunch of fights that show that the person was dominant from start to finish in that round, and then give a 10-8 for something that happened in the last 1 second. There was a judge who gave a 10-8 for, I forgot his name, I think it was Kubilova versus Colby, who gave 1-10-8, who messed up the whole thing because he decided, he hit him with his elbow for a minute, and you're thinking to yourself, what are you talking about? This just happens during the fight. This didn't happen the entirety of the fight. You can't throw out 10-7s for that's terrible. That's bad. And thank goodness this fight finished. I'm thankful that this fight finished because it didn't mess up. I promise you, the way this fight was trending, I don't want to say that, because the way this fight was trending felt like someone was going to get a finish. But let's say it felt in that fashion where, hell, it was going to go back and forth. Let's say Chandler gets out of that, gets knocked down, scrambles out, and Oliveira doesn't finish, and we just ride to a decision. This 10-8, these two 10-8s essentially seal it for Chandler. These 10-8s, and I don't like saying this because I don't want to accuse anybody of wrongdoing, but these 10-8s they're biased 10-8s. These 10-8s are low-key a way of showing your bias. Because if we just 10-9 our way down here, essentially what you've just done is gone, this judge scores draw, this judge scores Chandler, this judge scores Oliveira. You've essentially just tied up the whole thing, or you've given the fight away to a fighter based off of a 10-8. These 10-8s are gonna fuck somebody, man. And when it does, it's not gonna be pretty. Again, that's all I got. Thank you for listening. Hopefully I'm back next week with a brand new scorecard. Hopefully there'll be a week where I just come in and go, this scorecard is perfect, this scorecard is perfect. I wonder if that'll happen. I think that'll be my favorite episode. Until then, thank you for listening, and God bless.